Hi folks, this is another Random but Raw video, number 4 now, and this one's going to cover a little bit more into bass lines, into layering bass lines using samples. Um, Usually with samples they are a little bit thin, so you need to layer them together to create more of an impact on the bass line. You need to cover the frequency range, the low end and the mid end. So the this one the bass line for this one consists of 3 different bass lines. The first one is like a sub bass, this one here. So it's a little sub bass. Second one is a high bass, and this one. So it's a case of layering them together, really. So you pick 3 bass lines from your sample packs. Just try and get a bass line that's probably more of the sub bass line. Find one that has more of a sound to it, and then layer the 2 together, or 3 together in this case. So on the sub, currently on it, working on the F key on this tune. On the 5th op, we need another one of the sub on its own. Plays like this. That bass there is covering all the low end, most of it anyway. The second one you need is a little bit of a mid bass line, if you can do that. But if you want to create kind of a mid bass line, you just need to take out most of the high end and the low end and just increase the mid on your EQ to push that out. So in this case, this is what I've done with this sample that I created. So this is with a mid and a low. And third bass line is the kind of mid. So on this mid bass line, there is literally no low end hardly at all. It's just literally a little bit of mid and some high end, which it just gives it a little bit of something to it. But it's focusing areas on mainly on the mid range, and that's kind of boosted there, but it's just cancelling that out. So yeah, so that's effectively the 3 bass lines together, which will sound like this. Now, it's not quite there yet. It's cancelling each other out a little bit. So what you can do is you usually go to the more prominent bass line. On this case is that one. And there's a function on the sampler called reverse polarity. Now what that does is it changes the sound wave from, in this case, it kind of goes like an M shape up, then it reverts to a down W shape. So any notes that are hitting on top of each other, it's a great tool to be able to hear both sounds in a different way. So you get a bit more clarity out of the sound if you're using very similar sounds together. So to show you the difference, so you play it without, this is without. That's hugely important to layering bass lines together. Reverse polarity. So always use that. If you're layering basses together, use that function. It's very good. And it just gives it a little bit more clarity, a bit more range on its EQ. It doesn't clash together like it would do if you were just putting very similar sounds together. So yeah, so that's kind of covering the bass line. It's 3 basses, or you can use 2. Just focus on one bass as the mid of the bass, focus on another one as the sub of the bass, and maybe reverse the polarity of one of them, just so you can hear it a little bit more on the levels that it is. Also, as well, just to sort of cover the bass line and complement the bass line, is just some like little notes in the background. So this is kind of giving it a little bit of a drive. If you just load up any synth, so in this case it's Spire, if you initiate pattern, which effectively makes it into some kind of bog standard saw lead, and then just sort of go that, just a little bit like that. Take out all the low end off it, just to give it, so it doesn't clash with bass line, just to give it a bit of a sound to it rather than a bass to it. So this will now hopefully complement the bass. So, and then you can bring that in on a next section there. So you can bring in your bass line for that area, 16 bars, then you bring in that bit. So this is what it will sound. Better on a higher octave, so it produces more of a sound on the higher octave, so it doesn't cluster as much. So this will give it a bit more energy now. Yeah, also on the bass line as well, is if you go to your ADSR and just give it a little touch of release on them, just enough, just not much, but just a little bit, just so it gives it a little bit of a follow through on the bass, so it gives it more bass essentially to it. So show you the difference. If you take out all of the release, it just sounds a little bit too stabby. So this is with all the release out. Still sounds okay, but let's see what it sounds like. We don't have to release them all. Go. Also, as well, it's nice just to put in another little stab in as well. Some little stab noise of some kind. Yeah, something like that. That's a very bog standard stab. You know, just put one of those in just to complement it a little bit more, just to give it a bit more edge to it. Okay, yeah, maybe one every offbeat. Yeah. next bit as well, what you can do is you can just put like another little stab in there. That's right. So this is kind of complementing a little bit of a pattern on this one. So put one on the kick. There we go. So yeah, so that's just sort of a general idea how to lay your bass lines, put a couple of leads in there as well, just to give it a little bit of edge, give a bit more power to it. And then you just go from there, just start arranging your noises, giving it a flow up to the break. Yeah, so hope that helps. Thank you.